Hey there, it's Louie, and in this video, I'm going to be showing you how to crochet a dragon. Now, this dragon is really cool for a bunch of reasons. First off, it just looks awesome. Now, I currently have this one in a sleeping pose, and this is the next cool thing about this pattern, is that it includes wire in all of the different limbs, so you can actually pose it to be any kind of position you want it to be. So let's move it from a sleeping position to his like awake position. Get his wings out there like that. There we go. Maybe make him look a little bit further up at the camera. Here, now he's sitting pretty, waiting for a treat. So this is a very cool pattern. I've been working on it for a long time, like a year or so now. So it's gone through a lot of different iterations, but I think this is going to be the final version. And yeah, so let's go through all the things that you're going to need for this pattern and get to it. For this pattern, you're going to need the following materials. Now, I'm using all worsted weight yarn and 100% cotton. You're going to need 3 colors total. You'll need the main color, which for this is going to be this lighter green. A secondary color, which will be his secondary color, like his spines and the inside of his wings, his horns, his nostrils, and stuff like that. And then finally, a third color, which will be white. Now for this video, I am going to be using red for my main color and maroon for my secondary color. This kind of like a wine, and this one is called Country Red, I believe. And then of course, we'll need our little tiny bit of white yarn. Because I'm using all worsted weight yarn, I'm going to be using a size G 4mm crochet hook. You'll need a darning needle. I like using a crimped end darning needle with a little the edge is a little curved like that. Helps me get in and out of hard to reach places. That's going to be really important for this pattern because sewing all these pieces on can be a little bit difficult, especially when it comes to the wings if you don't have a little crimped end like this. You'll also need pipe cleaners or some kind of wire for all of the edges. Now, I suggest using a pipe cleaner with a somewhat similar color. It doesn't really matter that much, but if your crochet stitches are a little loose, you might end up seeing your pipe cleaner through it. And so if you don't want that to be too much of a problem, use a color that's somewhat similar. I'm going to be using brown. That's the closest that I have to this red. I know it's not really close at all, but it's the closest that I have. And I'll show you some techniques to kind of hide these pipe cleaners as much as you can. And like I said, you can also use wire. You're going to want 4 pipe cleaners total. Each wing has a whole pipe cleaner in it. The arms each have half of a pipe cleaner. So that's 1, 2, 3. And then for the 4th, we use it for the tail and for the neck because both of which we are going to be making poseable. Let's see what else. You'll need some stuffing, of course, and some eyes. I'm like using 6mm crochet safety bead eyes for this pattern. And if you'd like to get a crochet kit with all the materials that you need, I have them available at clubcrochet.com/shop. And there'll be some at clubcrochet.com/dragon as well. And I have a bunch of different kits available, all of which use the exact materials that I use in my videos. Okay. I think that's it for materials. Let me go through a couple of other just quick things. This pattern is tough. I would say this is a difficult pattern because there are a lot of different stitches that you're going to need to know. There's a lot of patience that are required. So if you are a complete beginner, I would not suggest using this pattern to start with. I'd suggest starting with a more simple one of my patterns, maybe like a little goblin. Goblins are pretty easy and give you a lot of the techniques that we're actually going to be using in this pattern. Gives you a little introduction to those. So if you are a complete beginner, I wouldn't suggest you starting with this pattern. It's quite a project, so yeah, I just think this could be a little bit difficult for a complete beginner. That being said, I do think it's not the craziest difficulty and the video tutorial should help you a lot. But if you have any questions, feel free to ask. We have a Discord channel and a Facebook group that I'm in all the time, and as well as a bunch of other people that will be there to help out. And feel free to comment down below if you'd like to. And also like this video. This is probably going to be unlisted, so liking it might not help that much, but I might make it public one day. So liking my videos just in general is really nice to do, and subscribing to the channel, of course. Okay, well, without further ado, let's get hooking. This pattern has a lot of different places, a lot of different pieces to do together. So we're going to start with the arms. Okay, so for our arms, we're going to be starting with our main color. For my case, that's going to be our main red color here. And we are going to start with a slip knot, or I mean magic loop. Now, most of this pattern is done with a magic loop, so I'm going to go into details here on how to do a magic loop if you haven't done one yet. I like holding my 2 index finger out, grabbing the yarn with my middle and my middle finger and thumb, going around my index finger like that. I like going around it twice to make a little X like that, and then go back around. So now I have an X on one side and 2 parallel lines on the back. Then I take this end attached to the ball, go between my ring and pinky finger and hold it in like that. It'll keep it held in place. Now I can take my crochet hook, and I'm going to go with the back of my fingers facing me, and take my crochet hook and go under the first bar, yarn over the second bar and pull that under the first like that. And I'm going to loop it around like so. That'll create a little loop there, see? Now I'm going to go over that first bar and yarn over with the second one. I usually use my index finger to help guide the yarn around it, and then hook it onto the hook and then pull it through. I really like to scoop it through like that to create a chain. Now once you do that, it's going to make your magic loop in place, and now it's ready to work with. When we're done making our first stitches, we're going to pull this end tight, and which will tighten the hole up. Now this magic loop is going to be very important and kind of hard to close at the end. So I suggest being very patient with this when we close it, but we'll go through that in just a second after we're done with our first round. Okay, so for round 1, we're going to start off kind of tough, I'm not going to lie. We're going to start off by doing, we'll start with just a single crochet in the magic loop. And all of these stitches are going to be worked into the magic loop here. We're going to start with 1 single crochet into the magic loop. And for our second stitch, we're actually going to start with a spiked bobble stitch, which is a custom made stitch that I made up. It's basically a bobble stitch and a mini picot put in between the bobble stitch. So what we're going to do for that, and we're going to use this stitch quite a lot in this pattern for all of the toes and for the horns. You want to yarn over, go into the stitch, which for us is the magic loop, yarn over again and pull through, then yarn over and pull through 2. So that's going to be essentially like you're starting to do a double crochet. We want to repeat that process one more time. So we're going to yarn over again, go into the same place, yarn over and pull through, and then yarn over and pull through 2. Try to keep your stitches relatively with a relatively tight grasp for these stitches too. So once you have 2 like double crochet starts in this done, you want to do a mini picot with the yarn still attached to the hook. So we're going to yarn over and do we're going to chain 2, but just using that first loop. So yarn over, pull through 2, 1 and 2. And now this is the really tough part. You want to work into the back loop of this first chain that we made, and we want to do a slip stitch into it. So here's our first chain. We want to work into the back loop right there on the back side of it. This is can be tough. The best way I found is just really get it into position, get your crochet hook in position like that, and help pry it over with your nail of your index finger. If you don't have a nail of your index finger, try using a little needle to help guide your crochet hook in there like that. Once you're into that first chain, we want to yarn over and do a slip stitch, pull through, and pull through just one of these loops, which can be kind of hard to see there. There we go, just like that. So that's going to be the mini picot. And then to finish up the spiked bobble, we're going to yarn over, do one more of those half double crochets, not a half double crochet, but a half of a double crochet. So we yarn over, go into the stitch, yarn over and pull through, then yarn over and pull through just 2 loops, 1 and 2. and then yarn over and pull through all the loops on the hook to finish up a spiked bobble. So that's going to be a spiked bobble stitch. We're going to do another one of those in just a second. You're going to have to get used to those stitches for this pattern. That's just the gist of it. We use them a lot. The next stitch we're going to do is a single crochet into the magic loop still. And then we're going to do another one of those spiked bobbles, and I'll try to take it step by step, maybe a little bit quicker this time. Let me get my seat a little bit closer here. Okay, so we're going to yarn over, go into the stitch, yarn over and pull through, then yarn over and pull through 2. And we're going to repeat that one more time. Yarn over, into the stitch, pull through, yarn over, pull through 2. Okay, now the mini picot, chain 2 with just this first loop there. 1, 2. Then into that first chain that we made, we want to find that back loop right there. Take the crochet hook and help pry it over with our index finger, and then do a slip stitch into that chain and into just one of the loops on the hook, and then one more of those first steps. Yarn over, into the loop, pull through, yarn over and pull through 2. And then yarn over and pull through all the loops on the hook. There should be 4 loops that you're pulling through. There's our second spiked bobble. Now we're going to do 2 more single crochets. 1 and 2. And then another spiked bobble for our third toe. This is going to be the last spiked bobble for our feet. Yarn over, into the stitch, pull through, yarn over, pull through 2. Again, yarn over, into the stitch, pull through, yarn over, and pull through 2. Then do our mini picot, chain 2, 1, 2. Find the first chain, get into the back loop like that, and slip stitch. And then finally, do one more of those first steps, yarn over, into the stitch, pull through, yarn over, pull through 2, and then finally yarn over and pull through all the loops on the hook. Here we go. And to finish round 1 of the feet, we just want one more single crochet here. And there we go. The foot's done. Not really. But the first round of the foot is done, or the arm, I should say. And now we're going to pull this, and it should pull this tight. Now, you want to be very careful when pulling this end because you can break the yarn if you pull it too tightly. I find the best way to do it is to pull it from the base of where the loop is. And try to make sure you're pulling it in a direct line so there's not too much tension so it doesn't break. And get that hole as tight as you can. That's probably fine. It's not as tight. You can still see through it a little bit, but that's okay. Okay, and that's going to be the end of round 1 for our arm. And you can see there's the little end. He's going to be standing on it just like that. Okay, so for round 2 through 4, that's going to be 2, 3, 4. 3 rounds total. We're just going to do a single crochet in each stitch around, and there should be 8 stitches total. Now, it can be kind of hard to see where the stitches are for round 2, so let me just help you out here. So, you're going to look for the V's at the top of the stitches, and if you are having a really difficult time, it might be best to count backwards. So, we're going to find our first stitch right here, and we're going to work into both loops of each of the stitches, and this is going to be the last one. So, we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. So that's going to be our first stitch right there. So we want to work our crochet hook into that very first stitch, like so, and do a single crochet in it. There we go. And we're going to do a single crochet in each stitch around, and again, there's 8 stitches total. Before I continue, let me go ahead and go into that stitch right there and get a little bit of extra yarn to make a stitch marker so that I can keep you, so you can tell where the ends of my rounds are. I'm just going to use a little bit of extra yarn pull it through that first stitch, and now we'll know that's going to be where the round will end. So I'm going to just keep going around and single crocheting into each one of these stitches. The best way I find to get into each of these stitches is to go from the base here and kind of use momentum to push the crochet over the hook instead of the hook into the crochet. It just kind of helps me get into the right stitches a little bit easier. We're just doing a single crochet into each one of them, and there should be 8 total. Okay, this will be stitch number 7. This will be the last one here. Will be 8. That's going to be the end of round 2. And again, we're doing 3 rounds total. So 2 more rounds, rounds 3 and 4. I'm going to pull that stitch marker up. Just keep working around, doing a single crochet into each one of these stitches around. Now, as you can see, I'm kind of pulling my stitches a little bit tighter. I'm just trying to keep a similar gauge throughout the entire time. So right here, this is like too big of a gauge. If I were to yarn over and pull through that, that's too loose of a stitch. So I want to kind of tighten it up just a little bit. And it's not that it's too loose of a stitch. It's just that I want them all to be the same. And I find the best way to make your stitches look the same throughout is make corrections once all of the loops are on the hook. Then you can like pull it a little bit tighter. It's the way that I like to do to make sure that I have a similar gauge throughout my piece. And you'll probably see me doing that throughout this entire video. Okay, so there's round 3 done. Let's do one more round of this. Pull this stitch marker up. And as you can see, I'm avoiding this tail end here. We're going to need this for sewing it to the body way later on near the end of our pattern. So we just want it to be sticking out of the middle. So just don't work around it if you can avoid it. And don't cut it loose. I mean, it's not going to be the end of the world if you do. You'll still be able to sew the arm on, but it would make it easier to have it dangling to use to double knot your 2 ends together at the end. Okay, we're almost done with round 4 here. And there we go. That's going to be the end of round 4. I'm going to pull my stitch marker a little bit, pull it up. There we go. Now we're going to be going on to round 5 here. For round 5, we're going to do 2 single crochets and then an invisible decrease, which I'll show you when we get to that. So let's start with our 2 single crochets, just the same as normal. Again, we're working into both loops for those single crochets. There's 1, and there is 2. And then we want to do an invisible decrease. For an invisible decrease, I'm going to pull my loop out just a little bit here. We're going to work into the front loops only of the next 2 stitches. So only those front loops. This would be under both loops, and this would be under just a front loop. So we want to work under this front loop and this front loop simultaneously. So the best way I find to do it is loosen my grip on my crochet hook. Let your crochet hook be able to move around a little bit. And then you want to go into the first loop and then go around it like that, so that you're in position to go up into the second loop. Now, once you're into both of those loops, I'll pull my crochet stitch a little tighter to get my loop tighter on the crochet hook and do a single crochet. And it can be a little bit hard to pull this loop through these 2 front loops. I find the scoop is the best way to not accidentally pull the wrong stitches out. Okay, and then we just finish up a single crochet like that. There's going to be our invisible decrease. And then to finish up round 5, we want to do 4 more single crochets to get to the end of the round. Now for round 5 here, we decreased once, which means that our stitch count is going to go down from 8 stitches to 7 stitches. So you should only have 7 stitches by the end of, wait, here we go. I'm trying to get this stitch marker out of the way. Round 5 is done. There we go. Let's pull this a little bit. Okay. Now for our next 2 rounds, round 6 and 7, 2 rounds total, we just want to do a single crochet into each stitch around. And again, there should be 7 stitches per round here. So just 2 rounds of just single crochets around. Not too bad, honestly. Just single crochets. And by the way, thank you so much for either purchasing this pattern or being a Club Crochet member or just making it in general. I really appreciate it. I took a lot of time on this pattern just to practice it a bunch, try to make sure everything was perfect before coming out with it. And it really means a lot that someone would take the time to make this dragon and to actually recreate my work. So I really appreciate it. Thank you so much. I forgot to pull up the stitch marker for that last round, so I'm going to pull it up in this round and just keep going. That was my first round of single crochets. Now I'm on to our next round of single crochets around. We are on round 7 now. I'm just going to keep rocking and rolling. I think you can kind of see the arm coming together now. 5, 2 more, 6, and 7. Okay, let's pull the stitch marker up. And now we are on to round 8. For round 8, we're going to do 2 single crochets and then an invisible decrease and finish up with 3 more single crochets. So 2 single crochets, 1, 2, and then an invisible decrease. Loosen up that crochet or the loop on the crochet hook, go under the front loop, loop over, go under the second front loop, yarn over and pull through, pull everything a little tighter, and then pull through, and that's going to be our invisible decrease. And then 3 more single crochets to finish up round 8 here, which brought us down from 7 stitches to 6 stitches, which is going to be our final stitch count for our arm. But we will need to do a couple more rounds of just single crochets to finish it up, make it just a little bit longer. Okay, pull the stitch marker up, and now we have 2 more rounds. We just finished round 8. We're on round 9. We want round 9 and 10 to all be single crochets. 2 rounds of just single crochets around, and it won't be too bad. There's only going to be 6 stitches per round, so it's only going to be 12 stitches total. Look at me doing quick math. I always thought when I went to elementary school that I wouldn't use math for anything, and I use it every day for crochet. At least simple math. Sometimes complicated math. I'm not even going to pull our stitch marker up. I know where the end of the round is, and I'm just going to do our final round, round 10 here, by just crocheting around. There's 3 more stitches, 4, 5, and our final stitch, 6. Okay, to finish up the arm, you just want to slip stitch 1 into the next stitch, yarn over, pull through, and pull through the loop on the hook. And then we want to cut the yarn. You don't need too long of an end, just about, that's probably fine, just enough to sew it onto the body. And we'll just pull it all the way through like that. And then we'll take the stitch marker here and we'll pull it out. We'll use it a little bit later for a next piece. And now we have the arm. You want to go ahead and make 2 of these arms total. You can kind of see how it's going to be all wibbly wobbly. And once we put a pipe cleaner in there, we're going to have it be poseable. I think this could be a really cool pattern to use for other kind of monsters and creatures as well. If you get any ideas for that, let me know. All right, so next up, we're going to be moving on to the legs. Now the legs are made very, very similar to the arms. Actually, round 1 is going to be the exact same for both of the legs, which is the exact same as the arms. I if you remember from the arm, round 1 was a little complicated. You did a single crochet, a spiked bobble, another single crochet, another spiked bobble, 2 single crochets, another spiked bobble, and then 1 more single crochet into a magic loop. So I'm going to start with our magic loop here. And I'm just going to go ahead and kind of power through round 1 since we've done it once before. Again, it's a single crochet, spiked bobble, which could be part 1, and then 2, and then we do that mini picot. And if you want to watch a video on spiked bobbles, I actually have a whole video tutorial available for it. You can find it at clubcrochet.com/spiked. And it goes through a little bit more detail for spiked bobble if you're having a little bit of trouble there. Oopsies. Let's try that one again. There we go. Pull through. There's our first spiked bobble. As you can see, I have made quite a lot of spiked bobbles in my time, and it just gets easier over time the more you make. But every now and then I do find a little bit of trouble with this part, the mini picot part. So we did our single crochet, our spiked bobble, our second single crochet. Now I'm working on my second spiked bobble. There we go. Oopsies, I pulled through. I wasn't supposed to do that. There we go. And now I'm going to work on 2 single crochets. 1, 2, and then our third spiked bobble. And I think it is possible to make a more toes for your dragon, but the more stitches you put onto this magic loop, the harder it is to close it at the end. And I have had, it's already pretty difficult to pull through without, or to pull it tight without breaking the yarn. If you want to use maybe a stronger yarn, it might be a little bit easier or a little bit less likely to break, but I will give you the warning that adding any toes to this will make it significantly more difficult. And then I finish up with 1 last single crochet there. We'll pull this tightly. Okay. Round 2 for the legs is going to be the exact same regardless of the legs. Now I'm not going to use a stitch marker here because we just want 1 more round here. And I'm just going to do 1 round of single crochets all the way around. That's going to be 8 single crochets total for the legs. Round 3 is going to be different for each leg. So we'll go ahead and finish up this leg, and then I will come back and show you how to do the right and the left leg here. So let me just finish up a few more stitches here. And the reason is you want your legs to be able to tilt in 2 different directions a little bit because they are so short. Okay, and that's going to be the last single crochet for round 2 of the legs, all just single crochets around. There should be 8 stitches total. And now is where the legs differ. So there's going to be a right and a left leg, and I have that marked by round 3R and round 3L. R is for the right leg, L is for the left leg. So both legs are you're gonna want to be at this point for both legs, just finished up round 2. Get this tail end out of the way. Again, you want to keep this long so that you can sew it onto the body, but you don't want to crochet around it if you can avoid it. Now we're going to start with round 3R. For round 3R, we're going to do a half double crochet in the first. So we're going to yarn over, go into the first stitch right here, yarn over again, pull through, yarn over, and pull through all the loops on the hook. So 1 half double crochet. Then we're going to do 2 single crochets. 1, 2, and then we want to do 3 slip stitches in a row. Pull through and then pull through the loop on the hook. There's 1 slip stitch, 2 slip stitches, and 3. and then one more single crochet into the next one. And we're going to finish up the right leg by doing one more slip stitch into the last stitch here. Cut the yarn and just pull it all the way through like that. And this is going to be the right leg finished. And you can see how it's got a little bit of a tilt, you know, because if this is the ground, it's got just a little bit, like a 45, maybe like a 20 to 30 degree angle. And this is going to be so that on the body it lays flat. Okay, so that's going to be the right leg. Now I'm going to go ahead and just get the left leg started. I'm going to do round 1 and 2 of the left leg, and then I'll come back for the round 3L in just a second. Okay, so that's going to be the end of round 2 for our next leg. So now we're going to be moving on to round 3L, which is going to be for our left leg. So for our left leg, we want to do it a little bit different. We're going to do 2 slip stitches to start it right here. Start with a slip stitch in the first one, then a slip stitch in the next, and there's 2. Then we're going to do 2 single crochets. Go into the next stitch here, do a single crochet. There's 1, and there's a second single crochet. And then we want to do our half double crochet. So we yarn over, go into the next stitch here, pull through, yarn over and pull through all 3 loops. And then we want to do a 2 more single crochets. 1, 2, and then finally finish up right here with a slip stitch. Okay, and then we can cut this end just like the last one, just a little bit long of an end, not too bad, just enough to sew it onto the body. Pull it all the way through, and there we go. Now we have our left leg as well, and again, it should have, I'm going to tweak it a little bit, but it should have slightly a bit of a curve like that. See, so you can see there's our right leg, here's our left leg. See how they kind of angle in for both of them. So we'll go ahead and put these to the side with our arms, and then we can get started on probably my favorite part of this pattern, the wings. Okay, so for the wings, we're going to be using our red yarn to start with. You can use your red yarn throughout the entire thing if you'd like to, but we're just going to be using our red yarn to start with here. We're going to start with a slip knot, a little bit different here. And you want, I guess, somewhat of a long end. That's probably just about fine. We just need it to sew onto the body. We're going to start by chaining 23. So we want 23 chains total. So I'm just going to go ahead and count out loud. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, and 23. There we go. There's a decently long chain of 23. Okay, so for row 1, that's right, row, not round, because we are going to be turning at the end of this row to go back. It's going to be pretty easy, actually. We just want to skip our first chain there, and we want to start by single crocheting into the next one. So skip that first one, start in the next one right here. You can just use the top loop of all the chains, and we just want to single crochet all the way down the chains to the very end of the line. It's going to be 22 single crochets total. Because we skipped our first chain, we only have 22 chains left. So if you want to count your stitches, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and you just need to make sure that there are 22 single crochets all the way down to the end. And this is a relatively new technique for me. I made this technique up when I made my bat wings for my hanging upside down bat last Halloween. And I came back to it for this pattern. I was just like, oh my gosh, this is the perfect technique for making a dragon's wing. And I just really like it a lot. I think it's really cool. I think I'll be using this technique again in the future. Okay, so that's going to be our last stitch for row 1, 22 single crochets down. I'm going to stretch it out so it's a little bit straighter. There we go. Now for row 2, we want to turn our piece, chain 1, and single crochet all the way down. So we're just going to single crochet down. Make sure to be working into both loops of all of your stitches, like that. And just single crochet all the way till you get to the end of the row. And again, there should be 22 total. And try to make these stitches, I guess not tight, just try not to make them loose. Because the looser they are, the higher the chance that you're going to see your pipe cleaner, which we're going to be crocheting around in the next row, through our stitches. And we do not want that. We want to avoid being able to see the wire in the wing as much as possible. Okay, just a few more here. Go 1, 2, and this is going to be our last one. The last one can be a little bit difficult to get in there, but there we go. That's going to be 22 single crochets, and you see how the wing's going to start there. Okay, now for row 3, I think this is my favorite part. We're going to start by turning and chaining 2, 1 and 2. We want to turn our piece like that. And now what we want to do is we want to skip our chains. I actually like to pull my chains a little bit tight to create a little point at the end of the wing. And we're going to go into the next stitch right here, the first stitch around, and then into the chain across. So right there. And you just want to work into the top of the chain. And then you want to do a slip stitch. Yarn over, pull through, and pull through, and pull through. So we're working into both ends to close this up. Okay, so make 3 of these, make 3 slip stitches here. Okay, we're going to go into the next stitch. So there's our first one. Here's our second one. Go into both loops of the next stitch, and then into the chain across right there. Yarn over, pull through, pull through, pull through. Next one, right here, both stitches, chain across right here, whoopsies, there, and slip stitch. Pull through, pull through, pull through. Okay, now once you've made 3 of those, hold on just a second, because we're going to keep doing that all the way down the piece to close this entire piece up, but we want to work around a pipe cleaner for the remainder of this. So here's where we're going to be using our very first pipe cleaner. Okay, so grab a full pipe cleaner, just like a whole long pipe cleaner, and fold it in half. Try to make it as perfectly in half as you can. And then grab the end, make a little loop with a twist, and then begin just twisting it all the way up. Okay, I like to actually twist it with my dominant hand holding the 2 ends of the pipe cleaner there and just twisting. You don't need it to be twisted too tightly. This is basically just going to be so that we can make our wings shapeable. And it's actually pretty necessary for this pattern. And we're going to go all the way till there's about an inch or so left over at the end of the pipe cleaner. Maybe a little bit more. We'll see. Yeah, we'll leave about that long. Let's try that. And we're going to just place it in the end right under the last slip stitch that we made, right like that. Okay, don't go too far because you can poke the pipe cleaner like through the stitches. You just want it under just that third slip stitch that you made. And then hold it up, make sure that it's long enough. That's pretty good. You can always undo a couple of twists at the end once we're done crocheting around it. But now that it's in place, see it's like just under that first slip stitch, we can continue doing those slip stitches across, working over the pipe cleaner. So we want to go into the next stitch right here, under both loops of the next stitch, go over the pipe cleaner and across to the chain across on the other side, like that. And then do a slip stitch. Pull through, pull through, pull through. Next stitch, across. Okay, pull through, pull through. Oopsies, I messed that one up. There we go, pull through, pull through, pull through. Go. And that's, I mean, this is basically it. I'm just going to keep doing this all the way till I get to the end of this row. And then we're going to turn and we're going to continue with the, I guess like, I don't know what you call it, the membrane of the wing. I'm not really sure. This would be, I guess, like the edge of the wing. And then we're going to continue on the next part of it. So I'll go ahead and finish up the remainder of these chains, or I mean these slip stitches, and there should be 22 slip stitches total if you want to make sure that you have the right count. You can see how, because we're working around the pipe cleaner, we can bend this however we want it to be. Okay, I'm at the end here, just have 2 more chains to go, or slip stitches. There's one, here's the last one. That last one could be kind of tough. You might need your nail or needle to get into that. There we go. Okay, so that's going to be the end of row 3. Now, you don't have to change colors here if you don't want to. I can, let's see, do I have an example of a dragon? Here's an example of a dragon that I made where the colors don't change. It's all the same color throughout. And you can see it's cool. I mean, it's neat, but changing colors is even cooler because here's the one with where we're going to change colors. And we're going to be doing their changing colors in this pattern as well. So to change colors, you're going to need your maroon yarn, and you can make a slip knot with this. I actually did that a little bit ago. I did a slip knot like this instead, but you actually don't need to do that if you don't want to. You can instead just make a loop like that, yarn over, and then just pull that loop through that last chain that you made. Let's try this like this. Hold on. There we go. Just pull it through like that, like you made a chain. And we're just going to be working into the slip stitches that you did in our previous round. And we're going to do the following stitches into all of these previous rounds slip stitches. So you can see those little V's across. Now I'm going to be using our maroon yarn for this, and I'm going to work around the tail end as I go. We're going to skip that first chain that we made, go into this first slip stitch right there, and we're going to start with a single crochet. And again, make sure to work around the tail end of your maroon yarn as you go across here. So go 1 single crochet. Now once I do the first single crochet, I'm just going to pull the slip stitch tighter, and I'm going to pull the end of this end tighter. And actually you can cut the end of your first color as well if you'd like, and you don't need too long of an end. That's probably just fine to sew it onto the body. So we'll do single crochet. We actually want to do 3 single crochets in a row. So we got 1 single crochet. Here's the next single crochet. Make sure you're working around under both of the loops there as you go across and around this tail end. 2 single crochets and 3 3 single crochets, and then we want to do a mini picot. Okay, so the same thing that's in the middle of the spiked bobble. Now this tail end, we're just going to pull that to the side. We're going to do our mini picot. We're going to chain 2, 1, 2, pull a little tighter, and then we're going to find the back loop of the first chain that we made right here, like that, and we're going to do a slip stitch into that back loop. Pull through, pull through. Okay, so 3 single crochets, a mini picot. Now we're going to do 2 half double crochets. We're going to yarn over. Now I'm not going to work around this tail end anymore. I think working around it for 3 stitches is just fine. No worries there. So just going to pull it to the side. We're going to do a half double crochet in the next stitch. Now again, to get into these stitches, I find it's easiest to push down and then like kind of twist it up like that. Kind of helps you get into those stitches better. Pull through all 3 loops there for a half double crochet. There's 1 half double crochet. We want to do 2 of those. Yarn over into the next stitch. Pull through all 3. There's 2 half double crochets. Now we want to do a double crochet into the next. Yarn over, go into the next stitch, pull through, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2 for a double crochet. Then we want to do a triple or treble crochet for the next. Yarn over twice, 1, 2, go into the next stitch, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, and then yarn over and pull through the final 2 right there. So again, that's after the mini picot, we did 2 half doubles, a double, and a triple. Now we want to do another mini picot, so we're going to chain 2, 1, 2, find the back loop of the first chain that we made right here, and do a slip stitch into that. Yarn over, pull through, and pull through for just a little point there. And now we want to do 7 triple crochets in a row on the wing. Now for the first one, you can just do a triple crochet if you want to. That's how I pretty much always do it. But I have found there's another technique you can do. I don't usually do it, but it does help close the wing in a little bit. So let me show you what I'm talking about here. So we're about right here on the wing, and you can see how it leaves like a little bit of a hole open. So you do the mini picot and then it leaves kind of a hole open there. So there is a way to close that hole a little bit. And I'll show you how to do it. I'm not going to do it like, I'm not going to keep it that way for this video because I don't really care too much about that. But you can do this. So see these little bumps on the edge of this triple crochet? So we're going to do a triple crochet, right? Where we're going to yarn over twice and go into the next stitch. Well, instead of yarning over twice, to make our triple crochet kind of attached is we're going to go into these loops here and pull through. So there's 1, and here's the next one, 2. Okay, so you pull through. So instead of yarning over twice, you actually pull through the side of the last triple crochet twice, and then you do a triple crochet as if those loops weren't attached to the stitch. 1, 2, and 3. And you see it holds those stitches together really tightly, so you can't like see through them like you could on the other ones. Now again, not necessary. I'm going to undo that even. I'm not going to do that, but it does keep your stitch a little bit tighter closed in, so you don't have too many holes there. But I'm just going to do it as normal, and I'm just going to do 7 triple crochets across. So there's 1, 2. You can see how that hole is without doing that. You can see how that hole kind of shows through there. One, 2, 3. There's our 3rd triple crochet. This end of the pipe cleaner is actually coming out like a little bit further than we wanted, but that's okay. We'll just use these 2 ends to sew it into the inside a little bit later. Okay, so we'll just keep doing our 7 triple crochets. So there's 1, 2, 3. Oopsies, that was a double crochet. Yarn over twice. 4, 5, 6, one more triple crochet, there's 7. Okay, so there's our 7 triple crochets. Now we want to do a double crochet. Yarn over once, go into the stitch, pull through 2, and pull through 2. There's our double crochet. Now we want to do 3 single crochet 2 together. Okay, that sounds weird, but you want to do single crochet 2 together for the next 3 stitches. So 4 single crochet 2 together. We'll go into the next stitch here, pull a loop through, then into the next stitch here, pull a second loop through, and then yarn over and pull through all the loops together. A lot of people just call that a double crochet. I call it a single crochet 2 together because I call a double crochet something a little bit different. And we're going to do 3 of those. So there's 1, next stitch, pull 1 loop through, next stitch, pull our second loop through, and then yarn over and pull through all 3 loops. There's 2, 1 more, 1 loop, 2 loop, pull through all of them. And to finish up row 4 for our wing here, we're going to slip stitch into the very last stitch right here. And there we go, slip stitch 1. Okay, now we want to turn our piece like this. And we want this, oopsies, I undid our slip stitch. Let me do that last slip stitch one more time. There we go. I'll pull it out a little bit. Okay, so now we want to turn our piece, and here's the other side of the wing. And we want to make sure this end is over this little edge here, like that. Okay, because we don't want it to go like around the outside. Like that. And we'll pull this loop a little tighter. Okay, now for row 5, we're turning. We're going to skip that first slip stitch that we made, our very first stitch there. And we're going to start in the next one right here. We're going to do a single crochet into that next stitch. Okay, so skip the first one, single crochet into the next one, then do a half double crochet into the next one after that. And then a double crochet in the one after that. Okay, so single crochet, half double, double, then a triple, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, and then we're going to do a mini picot again, chain 2, 1, 2, first chain that you made right there, work into the back loop only, and pull through. There you go. Now we're going to be doing more stitches, continuing, but we're going to do a triple crochet in the next one, and you can do that technique that I showed you in this triple crochet that we didn't do but that you could do, where you're pulling through the loops of the triple crochet to connect them a little bit tighter. You could do it again here if you would like to, but I'm not going to. We're going to yarn over twice, go into the next stitch here, pull through, pull through. There we go. That's going to be our triple crochet. So again, we did single crochet, half double, double, triple, mini picot, triple, and now we're basically just working our way back down. We're going to do a double into the next stitch, a half double into the stitch after, a single, we actually want to do 2 single crochets in a row after that. So there's 1 and 2, and then do a slip stitch into this last one there. We want to cut the yarn. You do not need very long of an end. I'm also going to cut the end of this one nice and close, like that. We're just going to pull it all the way through, and we're going to do a hidden end here with this end. Take it onto our needle. And we're going to go into, you can either go into the next stitch right here, or you can actually go into the mini picot right there, whichever one you want. I kind of find that working into the mini picot makes it a little bit cleaner, but I don't really know. And you want to go in through this end, this side like that, and then back down through where this end is coming, this loop is coming out, so right into there. And you just kind of want to hide your stitch down like that. And the point of the hidden end is that you do want it to mimic the tops of the other stitches. So I'm going to kind of wiggle it in there a little bit. Looks a little strange to me, but that's okay. There we go. And we'll cut it, once we have it pretty secure, we'll cut it nice and close, like that. And then it looks a little strange, but this is the wing. So now you can curve it using the pipe cleaner. You just want to curve the wing a little bit. And I always like to pinch the end so it's a little bit more of a point. And there we go. We have a wing. You can either have it curving in like that, so it's a left wing, or out like that, and it's the right wing. Okay, so now we got our wings, our legs, our arms done. Now we just need to make the additional parts for the face and the spikes, and then we can finally start working on the actual body of our dragon. So let's go ahead and get this to the side, and we'll make some teeth. Okay, so now we're going to be using our white yarn for our teeth, and the teeth are pretty easy. We're going to make a slip knot. And you want, I guess this is probably too long of an end, but that's okay. And we want to chain 3. So 1, 2, and 3. And you want to pull it tight, and you want to work into the back loop of the first chain that you made. So turn it around, see that little spine loop? Get your crochet hook into that back loop and single crochet 1. Just like that. And then you can chain 1. Cut your yarn, again, not too long of an end like that, and just pull it all the way through, pull a little tight, and that is going to be how you make a tooth. Now I'm just going to go ahead and pinch that little end there so it's a little bit sharper of a tooth. And you want to go and make 2 of these teeth. And put it to the side with the rest of our stuff. Okay, so now we're going to be doing the lip, and you're going to need your main color for this. We're going to leave a somewhat long end. That's probably fine. Make a slip knot. And for the lip, really easy. You just want to chain 14. So you want to yarn over and just chain 14. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, and 14. There we go. Cut the yarn, leaving a somewhat long end, just so you can sew it onto the face, and just pull it all the way through. There we go. And we're going to go ahead and put this to the side to sew onto our face with the teeth. And the last thing we want to do is make our spikes for the back. Now these are optional. You don't need to add the spikes if you don't want to, but I personally really like to. And we're going to start with a slip knot. And I'm using our secondary color, my maroon wine color here. And for the spikes, you're going to start with by chaining 3. 1, 2, and 3. Now we're going to skip the first chain and pull it tight, and into the next 2 chains, we're going to be working into the back loops only, like we did for our teeth, just these little back little loops there, and we're going to do a single crochet 2 together into those 2 chains. So we're going to go into the first one, yarn over and pull through, and into the next one right here, yarn over and pull through, and then yarn over and pull through all the loops on the hook, just like that. Now that's going to be the end of step 1. For steps 2 through 9, that's going to be 9 more spikes. There's going to be 10 spikes total. We're going to do, we're going to chain 4. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Pull the first one tight, and then using the next 2 chains, we're going to single crochet 2 together into those next 2 chains, and we're going to leave this last chain, the first one we made, separate. So we're just going to go into these next 2 ones and single crochet 2 together. 1 and 2, and then yarn over and pull through all the loops on the hook. We're just going to keep doing that until we have 10 spikes total. So we have 2 spikes done. Chain 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, pull tight, go into the next loop, back loops only, 1, and there we go, 2, pull through all 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, pull tight, back loops of the next 2 chains, and we're going to single crochet 2 together. 1 and 2, pull through. So I'm going to go ahead and keep doing this till I have 10 chains, and I'll be back in just a second. Okay, there we go, and that's going to be the last one. You should have 10 spikes total. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And then to finish this up, you want a pretty long end. Actually, you want probably about like that's probably fine, like that. Cut it, do 1 chain, and just pull it all the way through like that. There we go. And we're just going to sew this onto the back of our dragon. Actually, once our dragon is completely done is when we can finally sew this on. So we'll put this to the side. This is going to be the last step that we need. Now we have all the parts of our dragon made. We can finally get started on the actual, the head and the body of the dragon. Okay, so next up we're going to be working on the head. Now before I start the head, I always like to grab just a little bit extra of our main color of yarn, just a strand of it, just to put to the side. We can use this for embroidering a little bit more detail on the face later if we want. So I'll just grab a little bit extra of that, and we'll get started. So we're going to be starting with our main color of yarn, and you want to start with a magic loop, just like our legs and the arms. Start like that. And the head and body are going to be a little bit more regular crochet patterns if you're used to them, rather than like the arms and the wings take a little bit more technicality. This one's going to be a little bit more normal, although in the head there is a little bit complication. So we're going to start with round 1. For round 1, it's going to be 8 single crochets into the magic loop. Here we got our magic loop started. We're going to start with 8 single crochets in the round, which is not too complicated compared to the craziness that is the arms and legs of the dragon. Those are a much more complicated beginning for a pattern. Oop. There we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. That's going to be the end of round 1. Go ahead and pull it nice and tight there. All right. And before I get started on round 2, I do want to grab a little stitch marker to keep track of where we're at. So I'm just going to crochet around this piece of yarn just in the beginning here to keep track of where we're at. For round 2, we're going to do 3 single crochets and then 2 increases and then 3 more single crochets. So we're going to start with 3 single crochets. Make sure we get under all the loops of our stitches. There we go. So we want 1, 2, and 3. And then we want to do 2 increases in a row. So an increase just being 2 single crochets in the same stitch. So there's 1 increase, and there's another increase. And you can see here, you can kind of see the increases. This would be an increase, two stitches in the same spot. There's another one. And then we'll finish up round 2 by doing 3 more single crochets to get to the end of the round. 1, 2, and 3. And now we should have 10 stitches around. I'm going to pull our stitch marker up and pull it over. There we go. Okay. So for round 3, we're going to be making our nostrils as well as just single crocheting around. Now you do have 2 different options you can do for your nostrils. You can either make them in your main color or you can make them in your secondary color. Here's an example of both. So this one is made in the main color, and you can see that it's very subtle. You can see there's the nostril and there's another one. It's much more subtle by using the main color. Here it is using our secondary color. It's much more noticeable. So you can do either one. I'm going to be using our secondary color just because it's a little bit more obvious and good for the video tutorial. Okay, so for our secondary color, let's go ahead and get that ready. Grab our maroon yarn and get it prepared there. And for round 3, we're going to do 4 single crochets and then we're going to make our first nostril. So let's just start by doing 4 single crochets and we'll work around our secondary color after for the 4th stitch. So there's 3 and here's going to be 4. Now before I pull through with our main color, I am going to put the new maroon wine color in between. And then I'm going to pull through with our main color like that. Okay. So 4 single crochets. Now we're going to make our first nostril. For a nostril, we're basically going to be working over round 3 and into round 2. And we're going to do a double crochet into the stitch that's directly under it. Now for our case, that's actually going to be directly into the increase. So instead of working into the stitch like we would normally, we're going to work over it and into this stitch right here. We're going to do a double crochet into that stitch and pretend like it's just normal. So we're going to yarn over with our new color. Let's keep our main color in place. We're going to go into the stitch under right here, yarn over and pull through, then yarn over and pull through 2 loops, and then switch back to our main color. I always like to place my index finger between the 2 and flip it under like that when I change colors. Then yarn over with our main color and pull through to finish up the stitch. And that's going to create our little nostril in the place. Okay, so there's going to be 1 nostril. Now we're going to do a single crochet and then we're going to do another nostril. So first we're going to do single crochet right here. And I'm going to make sure to work around our maroon, our secondary color, and then we're going to do another nostril into the increase stitch. You can see how instead of working into this stitch, we're going to work over into this one and do the exact same thing that we did for this stitch. Yarn over with our secondary color, go across the round, pull through, and pull through 2, and then we're going to switch back and pull through with our main color. There we go, we got 2 nostrils there. Okay, now to finish up round 3, we're going to do 3 more single crochets to the end of the round. Now it can be a little confusing because it kind of looks like we want to work into this stitch, but this is the stitch that we're skipping in order to make the nostril over it. So don't work into that stitch. Instead, just keep going. And I'm going to work around this maroon secondary color just for 1 single crochet just to keep it into place like that. And then we can just cut it nice and close. And we're going to keep this close at hand because we're going to use it again for the spiked baubles in a few more stitches. So 3 more single crochets. We did 1, so 2, and run out of the way. There is 3. Okay, see our little nostrils there. And we can mess around with them in a little bit to make sure that they look exactly the way we want to once we make the face. But it's not really worth messing with them too much at this point. Okay, so now we're going to grab our stitch marker, pull it up, and we are on round 4. Now for the next 3 rounds, round 4, 5, and 6, 3 rounds in a row, we're just going to do a single crochet into each stitch. So that's just going to be 3 rounds of single crochets, and there should still be 10 stitches per round. So just do 3 rounds of single crochets, and that's about it. Now let me show you where to work into for your nostril stitches. It's going to be right there, like that. And like that. And I'll just keep going around. We want 3 rounds of single crochets in a row. It's going to be the end. There we go. It's going to be the end of round 4 there. And I'll just keep going around. Okay. It's going to be the end of round 6 in our 3 rounds of just single crochets there. You can see how it looks on the front. All right, so now we are on to round 7. Now round 7 is where we're going to be making our spiked baubles, which are going to be basically the little ears, kind of, the horns, I suppose, for our dragon. Here, you can see it on top here, these little guys there. Now again, you can make these in the main color if you'd want, but I find they show up pretty well if you use your secondary color instead. So we'll be using our secondary color for it. Okay, so we are on round 7, and for round 7, we're going to start by doing 5 single crochets in our main color, and then we're going to switch over and do a spiked bauble for using our secondary color. So we go 1, 2, 3, 4, and that'll be 5 will be there. Then we're going to grab our secondary color, place it in between. We're going to pull through with our main color still, because we want the top of the stitch to be main color. And then we're going to make a spiked bauble in our secondary color. We've done our 5 single crochets, spiked bauble. You probably remember that from the feet. You want to yarn over. Make sure you have a little bit extra on the inside there of the secondary color so it doesn't get pulled out. Go into the next stitch. Let's just make sure that end is tucked in there. Okay. Yarn over, pull through. Yarn over, pull through 2. And then we're going to repeat that process one more time. Yarn over, go into the next stitch. Yarn over, pull through. Yarn over, pull through 2. And then we're going to do our mini picot. Chain 2. 1, 2. We're going to skip the first chain, and in the second chain, I want to work into that back loop right there. I like to use my nail to help prime the hook into that back loop, and then do a slip stitch using just the first loop, like that. And then we want to yarn over, work into the same stitch, yarn over, pull through, and then yarn over and pull through 2, and then switch back to our main color, yarn over and pull through all the loops on the hook. There we go. And now we have our little spiked bauble. Now, you can do something else. If you want to, you can actually give your dragon a little bit of like an angry face if you want. And here is how. Instead of working that spiked bauble into that round, into the same round that you're working the rest of our single crochet stitches, we can actually work over and into the stitch under it, just like how we did the nostril, and it gives your character a little bit of like a grumpy, angry face. So this one's got it where we've worked over the stitch and into the one around it, and you can see it gives them a little bit more of like an evil looking dragon. Here is our happy looking green dragon, and here's our a little bit more angry looking red. You could even work one stitch even further down if you want to be even more like exaggerated if you wanted to. It's a little bit more difficult to do that, obviously, but it does give it a little bit more of an emotion if you want to try that as well. Okay, but let's keep going here. So after we've made our spiked bauble, we want to do 1 single crochet in our main color into the next stitch. Ooh, there we go. Like that. And then we're going to be doing another spiked bauble using our secondary color right after that. Let's get more yarn. So let's make our second spiked bauble. So, oh wait, let me show you. If I wanted to do work over, instead of working into this stitch for a spiked bobble, I'd work into this stitch down here. And it would give us more of an angry look. But we're not going to do that for this video. There's 1 and 2. Then we're going to do our mini picot, chain 2, 1, 2. Let's get to that back loop right there. Like that. And then slip stitch. And then do one more of those repeats. Yarn over, go into the same stitch, yarn over, pull through, and pull through 2. Then we'll switch back to our main color, yarn over, and pull through all the loops on the hook with our main color. And we got our little horns there. Okay, now we're just going to work into the next stitch. We just want to finish up by doing 2 more single crochets to finish this up. And I like to work around the maroon, the secondary color, for just one stitch, just like that, to help keep it into place, and then we can cut it after we finish this last single crochet. There we go. Let's go ahead and cut that yarn. And there we go. Okay. Now we'll pull up our stitch marker here to work around it. And we are on to round 8. Okay. For round 8, we want to do 1 single crochet. And then you want to do an invisible decrease. So remember, an invisible decrease, we're going to work into the front loops only of the next 2 stitches. So we want to go front loop, go around, there's the second front loop, so 2 front loops, and then do a single crochet into that. 1 and 2. So a single crochet, an invisible decrease, and then we finish up round 8 by doing 7 more single crochets to get to the end of the round. So there's 1, 2. Make sure to work into the red stitches on the inside right there for when you get to the horns. There's 3, 4, 5, 6, and then 1 more right here will be 7. Okay. Now, pro tip, I am going to work 1 more single crochet into the next stitch right here, just because it'll help me out when we sew on the face in just a second. So I'm just going to do 1 more single crochet just to make it a little bit easier for us. We're going to pull this loop out pretty far. Keep that to the side. And then now we can add our face onto the front of our piece here. Okay. Okay, so for the face, the first thing we want to do is we want to add our eyes. And we want to be using our 6mm eyes for this, which are a little bit smaller there. A little bit of our little applicator stuff. And I like placing the eyes, they can pretty much go anywhere between rounds 4 and 7. I personally like to put them just beneath the spiked bobble stitches for round 7. And then I like to embroider a little line under the eyes to give it a little bit more of just a stylized thing. So I'm just going to go 1 stitch under. If we want to look at our other dragon, just to make sure that we want it exactly where we want it, we're just going to go 1 stitch under where that spiked bobble is. So I'm just going to go right, there's where the spiked bobble went in, right there. So we got 1 eye there. And so you can see I could put that eye right there or right there. You can go like really close if you want or really far. And that will completely change the look of your dragon if you want to make it different. Then on the other side, same deal. There's where the spiked bobble is. We want to go 1 stitch under, which would be right here. Like that. You can see we got our little eyes on there. Now I'm just going to use this little locking mechanism on the inside to find the back of that eye. Place this on the inside and just lock it into place. And there's not a lot of room to make to work with here. So the face can be a little bit tricky. So just be very patient with it. Oops, I missed it. Especially the eyes can be tricky. But also sewing on the mouth in a second is very tricky. But once you finish the face, you feel really, I feel very accomplished once I finish the face, because there's a lot, from then on it's like very simple. Okay, so we're going to take our chain. We're going to take our lip here, put this to the side, and we want to sew this this lip of this chain of lip here around the face like that. Okay, so we only have so many stitches to work with, so it's really good that you strategize and make sure that you know where you want this lip prior to sewing it on if you can. So if we look at the top here, we're going to pull this knot through, which gives us 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, and basically 13 chains to work with. So that means that we need 13, oops, there we go. We need 13 places to sew this onto on the face. And we want to go all the way across. In the center is definitely going to be a stitch, and then all the way across to the other eye. So I like to go just under, you can see here, we like to go just under the eyes if we can, to start there for the corner of the mouths. So we'll start right here. Let's see, let's look at on this one. Let's make sure we got a good spot. Yeah, but like right there. We'll start there, and then we'll just work our way across. So we're going to go 1, let's go 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, maybe it'll be right there, then 8. Let's go, let's see, would it be better to go up? Yeah, let's go 9, 10, and then let's just go across 11, 12, and then 13. This will be 13, maybe we'll go 14 down a little bit, and then we'll finish up by pulling through right there with the last little knot. So we're going to start right here, and we want to take, there's going to be 2 ends of this mouthpiece. We want to take the longer end, thread that on our needle. I'm also going to cut, well, actually, let's leave it long just in case. I was going to cut this middle one, but I'm worried that we'll work around it by accident. So we're going to thread this end on our needle. Go through here. And the way I like to do the mouth is I like to pull it through almost to where the knot is coming through, and then come out through the next stitch, which is going to be right under it. So we have just a little bit of a smile going on. And then I like to keep a loop open like this, then come around and go, we're going to skip that one because that's the knot that's going to get pulled through, and we want to go through the bottom of the next chain over right here, and then we're going to go back into our stitch. But first, let's go ahead and pull that through that chain. Try to get it as, get all these things out there. And then once you have it pulled through that, just like so, so we're going to go through with it. I like to take this loop and make sure that this knot is pulled through on the inside. So we're going to go pull that knot through. There we go. And then we're going to pull this end to pull it all through. And then we're going to go back into the same stitch that we came out of, and then out through the next stitch over. There we go. And then on the chains, it can kind of be hard to see where the next chain is, but it's this very strangely bumped out one. That's actually the next chain we want to work into, because the other one's getting pulled into the piece. So we're going to go into this little weird bump here, and that's going to be the next chain to work with. Go into our piece, and then out through wherever we want the next stitch. There's 2. Next chain, into the same stitch, out through the next one over. Okay, this weird bumped chain, that's our next one. In through the same stitch, out through the next stitch. A little tighter there. And let's go ahead and mess with this, make sure it looks the way we want it to. You can see we're going to sew on a tooth right here, which adds a lot to our piece as well. Go through the next chain, next stitch, like that. Well, like, there we go. Next one here, into the same stitch and out through the very center. Next chain, this weird bump one. Make sure to go in through each chain or else we won't have enough for the mouth. You'll have to do it again. Next, same stitch, and then we're going to come out a little high up here to give them a little bit of like an underbite. Here's the next one, this very strange bump. In through the same stitch and out through the next one. We're going to start working our way down now. Next chain is going to be right there. There we go. And let's go, yeah, we'll start working down like that. Our stitch marker might get in the way. We'll find out in just a sec. Let's go up right here. Try to give a little bit of room between us and the stitch marker. The next one over. Let's see how that looks first really quick. So we can get a good look. That looks pretty good. See, and it always looks better. Once we add a tooth, it'll look way better. But you can see how it's going to go over the mouth. And then once we add stuffing, it'll look a lot better as well. So don't be too dissuaded as you go through this, being like, oh, it doesn't look right. Just finish it up and then take a look at it. You can always try to make some adjustments later on. I'm going to go down a stitch right here, kind of get into where our stitch marker is to give us a little bit of room in between the lip and the eyeball. And actually, I think that's all. We'll work into the next chain right here. That's the last one. And we'll work into the body. We'll come out through the back right here. And then we're going to take this tail end, and we're actually going to come through where the stitch marker is. So we're just going to go right through here. And that's why we added another single crochet. It just makes it a little easier for us. And just pull that through on the inside. And we want to try to, if we can, get this knot to get pulled through the body. So we're going to try to pull it just tight enough so that that knot gets popped on the inside. You can see it kind of poking through right there. And we'll have these two ends, and we can just double knot these two ends on the inside. And that will be how we make our lip. How we sew on our lip, I should say. Okay. You can cut it pretty close, about like right like that should be fine. And then let's use the inside of our crochet hook to kind of tweak everything in the right position before we add our teeth and our eyes and stuff. There we go. Okay, so that's going to be the lip sewn on. Next, we want to sew on our teeth. Okay, so we have our teeth here. Now you can sew on the teeth one of two ways. You can either do it like that, so that the tooth is kind of pointed inward, or you can do it like this, so that the tooth is kind of pointed outward. Usually I like to point the teeth inward, because I think, I don't know, just feels more dragony to me, but you can choose to do it however you'd like. There's going to be 2 knots here. I'm going to start by threading the outside knot first. And you want to thread on both of these knots into 2 adjacent stitches along the lip. So here is where one stitch would be, like right there. Basically exactly where you want this lips, where you've sewn this lip on is where you want it to go in. So like, let's go like right, like not there. That would be the very corner of the mouth, which honestly is not bad. Corner of the mouth is fine too. It gives them a little bit of a smile. But I'm going to go a little bit under right there. And it's usually easiest to pull it on the inside, but then the tooth kind of comes out like that. So what I'm going to try to do is I'm going to try to go in through, out through an adjacent stitch that's right under it, like that. Then I'm going to thread the other end. We'll see how this works. We're going to go through an adjacent stitch to that, so like right here instead. See, so like right next to it. In through the body. Then we're going to come out through the same place as our last knot. Like that. And the important thing here is you want to pull this tight enough so that the knots kind of get pulled on the inside there too. Really try to get it as pulled tight as you can without breaking the yarn. And then once you have it pulled in, we'll double knot. 1 and 2. I like to pull it nice and tight there. Cut it pretty close. And then use the back of a nail or a needle to stuff that knot back into the piece. Like that. You can see the tooth is just sewn on to the lip there. I always like to pinch it, make sure we got a pointy tooth there. And there we go. We got 1 tooth sewn on. Now we'll do that to the other side as well. And the same kind of thing. I'd like to try to avoid the corner if I can and go 1 stitch over, maybe like right here, into the body, then out through an adjacent stitch. We're going to do the same thing so that the tooth is curved in instead of out. But again, you could do either one. There's 1. And go through an adjacent stitch, about right here maybe. Yeah, that's pretty good. Come out through the same place. And then pull both of these tight so that the knots get pulled through. It can be kind of hard to do that though. One and 2. Cut the knot pretty close. Throw that to the side. Let's try to stuff that on the inside there. There we go. We have our teeth sewn on. And the very last thing we want to do to our face is we want to add some eyelids under the eyes. And that's why you want this extra thread of red. Extra thread of our main color, I should just say. And then I like to come up through the stitch just behind the eye, like right there. And I think this gives your character so much more character. Pull out through like that. Make sure you have that, you know where the end is. And then come through with the other end just under the eye. About like right there maybe. It's probably pretty good. And come out through the inside like that. And you see there's something about doing that, especially if it goes like just over the eye like that, that makes them look so much cuter. And you don't need to double knot this too tightly, but we do obviously need to keep it on the inside. So we're just going to double knot it. It's kind of getting messy in the inside there. Cut it close. And then I like to let's just tweak it a little bit so that it's a little bit out there. He's got just kind of cute little cheeks now. We'll do that to the other side as well. Just behind the eye. And then just under it right there. That. See, look how much more character that has. It's just such a simple way to add some more emotion to your dragon's face. And then we'll double knot it relatively tight. We'll probably tweak it a little bit once we got this double knotted. Cut it nice and close. Toss this to the side. We'll use this nail to just kind of like mess with this and this embroidered strand a little bit to kind of pull it out just a little bit, just so it's just barely covering up the bottom of the eye, giving him a little bit of style. And you can do the same thing over the eye to make him a little grumpy looking too. But yeah, that is going to be our little dragon there. Let's pull our teeth out just a little bit, give this one a little bit more of a point. We'll probably mess with these teeth a little bit later on as well. Okay, that's going to be how to add the face. You can see there's a lot that goes into the face with just such a tiny little piece here. So it can be kind of hard to get it right. And you can add more teeth along the edge if you want. But once you get going, just don't stop. Just make the face and don't worry about it looking too weird. We can tweak it and we can mess with it a little bit later, and it'll have a lot more of character later on as well. Let's make sure that everything is pulled in there nice and tight. Looks like we got one little knot here that's fighting us, so we might need to tweak with that a little bit later as well. Looks like it's the knot from the lip that's coming out a little bit. So just go ahead and pull that through a little bit if we can, and just keep crocheting. Okay, now we have already worked one stitch for the next round. We can undo it a little bit just so we can get this yarn over it. Like that. Finish pulling it through there. Just keep our stitch marker in place. So we did one single crochet already for the next round, but we are on to round 9, which is technically the beginning of the body because we've already finished the head. So for the first round of the body, stitch number 9. Well, actually, let's go ahead and cut this inside loop here because we don't need that either. It'll just get in our way. And we'll go ahead and try to stuff everything in there except for our stitch marker with the back of our crochet hook. We'll come back and we'll be adding some stuffing into that in a little bit as well. Okay, so for round 9, you want to do one single crochet, which we've already done, and then you want to do an invisible decrease. So we're going to take this out a little bit. We're going to go into the front loops of the next 2 stitches. So one single crochet and then invisible decrease, front loop, and front loop. Yarn over, pull through, pull a little tighter, and pull through. Okay, so single crochet, invisible decrease, and then finish up by doing single crochets into the remaining 6 stitches. One, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's going to be the last stitch right there. Will be stitch number 6. That'll be the end of round 9, which will be, you should have 8 stitches around now at the end of round 9 there. For round 10, we're just going to be doing a single crochet into each stitch around. Now, before I get started on round 10, something I like to do is move this stitch marker down since we don't really need them up here anymore. So I'm going to just pull the stitch marker out. I'm just going to try to be as delicate as I can as I pull it out, just in case we have some of it knotted around. Like this end, I can feel we've knotted around it a little bit, so we just want to be careful. There we go. I could tell that was about to happen, so I wanted to kind of try to pull it through if I could. And we'll just start the stitch marker over again. Okay. All right, so for round 10, we're just doing a single crochet into each stitch around, 10 stitches total. Let's go ahead and get this guy out of the way. We'll just keep single crocheting around. I worked around our tail end, or I mean our stitch marker there. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It's a good time to count your stitches, make sure we're on track. 7, and here's going to be our last one. 8. There we go. Let's pull our stitch marker up. I like to keep the tail end of the stitch marker on the inside if we can. And we'll fold this over like that. Okay, it's going to be the end of round 10. For round 11, we want to do 2 single crochets and then an invisible decrease. And then we're going to repeat that one more time. So that's going to be, well, let's just go ahead and do it. 2 single crochets. Let's stuff this tail end of our stitch marker on the inside a little bit so it just isn't in our way. And we'll go 1. And then I always like poke in and then pull it up. 2. Invisible decrease. We go front loop and front loop and then single crochet. And then we're going to repeat that process one more time. 2 single crochets and an invisible decrease. So we'll go 1, 2, and then an invisible decrease. 1, 2, boo, badoo. Okay. Now you should have 6 stitches around, and our head is like, you can really get a good idea of the head now. Honestly, once I'm done with the head, I feel so much better because I'm like, wow, look at this guy. He's coming together. I almost want to like frame just a head once, just to be like I caught a dragon or something. Okay. Okay, so now we're on to round 12. For round 12, 13, 14, and 15, that's 4 rounds in a row. We just want to single crochet all the way around. So there should only be 6 stitches per round, and we're just going to do a single crochet for each round, or for each round. So we're just going to go around and just do 4 rounds of single crochets 6 times. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That will be 6. Okay, so we got our first round done. That'll be the end of round 12. Now I'm going to do 3 more rounds of that around, all the way to round 15. Okay, so that's going to be the end of round 15. There we have our 4 rounds of single crochet. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now we are on to round 16. For round 16, we're actually going to be increasing back up to 8 stitches. We finished our neck, basically. We want just the end of our neck, a little bit longer there. So we're going to be doing 2 single crochets and then an increase repeated twice. So we're going to start by going 2 single crochets, 1, and 2, and then do an increase, 2 stitches in the same stitch right there, And then we're going to repeat that one more time. 2 single crochets, 1, 2, and then an increase. 1 and 2. Now you should have 8 stitches around at the end of round 16. Now we're on to round 17. We're going to pull the stitch marker up here. And for round 17 and 18, that's 2 rounds in a row, we're just going to be doing a single crochet into each stitch around. So we're just going to keep working around and just do a single crochet into each stitch. For 2 rounds total, there should be 8 stitches per round. So that's 16 stitches total of just single crochets. Okay, and that's going to be the end of round 18. That's 2 rounds in a row of just single crochets. Now we'll pull our stitch marker up, and we are on to round 19. For round 19, we're going to do 1 single crochet, just 1 like that, and then an increase. There's 2 and 3. So 1 single crochet, 1 increase, and we're going to repeat that 4 times in a row to go up from 8 stitches to 12 stitches. So let's do our second repeat. There's our first repeat done. Second repeat, single crochet 1, increase 1. Single crochet 1, and then an increase. And then our last repeat, single crochet 1, and then an increase. And there we go. Now we have 12 stitches around. That'll be the end of round 19. You can see how the neck's getting a little bit bigger now. Now before I continue, I do want to try to stuff up a little bit all the way up to the head. And the best way I found to do this is with an actual, like a stick. So if you have a stick like this or a pencil, I like to just take a little bit of our stuffing here and try to get into the very tip of the head. Just because it gets a little bit more difficult to do this later. You can do it later as well if you want. But I find that it's a little bit easier to get it done with earlier on. And you definitely want to get ahead of the eyes if you can. There we go. So I just got the nose a little bit. Again, just a little bit more stuffing, not too much. There we go. Just enough to get the head stuffed up a little bit before we continue on. Okay. There we go. Okay, so now we are on to round 20. For round 20, we're just doing a single crochet into each stitch around. Again, there should be 12 stitches around. So just 1 round of just single crochets around, so we don't have to do this over and over. It's just 1 round of it. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and here is going to be 12. And pull our stitch marker up there. And then now we are on to round 21. For round 21, we're going to do 3 single crochets and then an increase repeated 3 times total, which will bring us up from 12 to 15 stitches. Work around a stitch marker here. 3 single crochets, 1, 2, 3, and then an increase, 4 and 5. And we're going to repeat that 3 times in a row. So there's our first repeat. Let's do our second. 3 single crochets. 1, 2, 3, and then an increase. 4 and 5. And then one more repeat of that. 1, 2, 3, increase. 4 and 5. Pull our stitch marker up. That'll be the end of round 21. For round 22, another round of just single crochets all the way around. Just a nice simple round of just single crochets all the way around for round 15. I mean for 15 stitches rather. This is round 22. Okay. This will be 9, or yeah, this will be 9 and 10. 12, 13, 14. This will be our last stitch right there, will be 15. Pull a stitch marker up. All right, for round 23, we're going to do 4 single crochets and then an increase repeated 3 times around to go up from 15 to 18 stitches around, which is going to be the main, as big as our body's going to end up actually getting. It's surprising how small the body of the dragon is compared to like the entire dragon. So we're going to do, okay, so let's just go ahead and do that. So we're going to do 4 single crochets and then an increase. Get our yarn ready, pull our stitch marker over. So 4 single crochets, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then an increase. 5 and 6. There's our first round. And we're going to repeat that 3 times total. So let's do our second repeat. 4 single crochets. 1, 2, 3, 4, and then an increase. 5 and 6. And one more of those. 1, 2, 3, 4, and then an increase. 5 and 6. And again, you should have 18 stitches around at this point. I'm going to pull a stitch marker up there. For our next 3 rounds, rounds 24, 25, and 26, 3 rounds in a row, we're just going to do single crochets around. So just 3 rounds of single crochets around. There should be 18 stitches per round for 3 rounds in a row. And that's pretty nice and easy. It's kind of like our little break. And then after we finish these rounds, we can start sewing on the arms and the wings and stuff like that. Okay, so that's going to be the end of round 26. Now we can actually pull the loop out there. Our 3 rounds of single crochets are all done. Next up, we are going to be sewing on the arms, stuffing up the neck, and then sewing the wings just above each of the arms. So let's start by sewing on the arms. You're going to want to start with your pipe cleaner, and we can fold it in half, just another pipe cleaner. That will fold in half. And then we'll actually cut it in half. Now, I don't really suggest you use scissors to cut pipe cleaners in half because they can dull scissors, so just giving you that heads up. I suggest you use a pliers if you have them, but I don't really have them at hand right now, so I'm just kind of using scissors. And then once you have 2 halves of a pipe cleaner, you want to actually fold that in half, like so. And then we'll twist it up, leaving just about maybe like an inch left over. Maybe a little bit left. Maybe a little bit more than that. We're going to find out because we're going to grab our arms. Let's go ahead and grab that now. And we're basically going to go about that far so that the pipe cleaner almost fully fills up the arm. And this is going to allow us to have posable arms. It's about, let's go with like that long. It's pretty good. Let's make sure. Yeah, that's pretty good actually. So we have just a little bit left over here. And you're going to want to do that with both halves of these pipe cleaners, but I'll do the other one in just a second. And we're going to sew these on to our dragon on the underside. Now, the underside of your dragon can be kind of like in multiple different places because you can kind of twist your stitches like that. You can see how I can make it go that way or this way. So just make sure that like the dragon, try to go with wherever his neck just like kind of naturally goes. And we want to go between rounds 20 and 22. So if we look at the bottom of our character here, this round right here is going to be round 20, that's going to be round 19, and round 20 is going to be this round right here. And I can tell that because we have a single crochet, and then we have an increase right here, single crochet, increase, and it does that all the way around, single crochet, increase, single crochet, increase. And so I know that the only round we've done that on recently is round 19. So we can go between rounds 20 and 22. In fact, we should go to all of those rounds. So that's going to be this one, and this one. So between these 3 rounds on the bottom of our dragon. So let's start with the let's start with the right side. And what we want to do is we want to take this pipe cleaner here and we want to go in between 2 of these rounds. So let's go between rounds 20. That's going to be that round. Let's go a little bit further on the outside, like right here maybe. And I'll just take this pipe cleaner and go through 2 adjacent stitches like that. Let's make sure that's where we want it to be. It'll be like that, and the neck will probably be like that. Okay, that's pretty good. I like that. It could be maybe a little bit further on the bottom, but that's okay. I like it. Now I'm going to actually take it off of the arm just for a second so you can kind of just see the armature there. And on the inside, you're going to have 2 ends sticking out. It's going to kind of be hard to see here. But what we want to do is we want to find both of those ends and twist them together on the inside. The one is kind of bent up already. There we go. So we have 2 ends there, kind of see it. And you just want to take them on the inside and twist them so that it locks the arm in place. Now this won't come off. And we can sew this on right above it. So what we want to start with for sewing this arm on is we want to start by threading the middle of the arm. So there's 2 tail ends here. We want to start by threading this middle one, not the one that's attached to the outside of the round. I'm going to thread this onto a needle. You can slide this on the hand. Slide this on the skeleton, I guess. And then we're going to be sewing this on between 3 rounds here. Between 1, 2, and 3. So it's going to go around like that. So that is going to be the direct middle of it. So we want to take this end that's threaded with the middle of our hand there and put that right in the center. Then we're going to take this end and we're just going to sew it all the way around. Now there's 6 stitches to work with. So we kind of want to count it out. We kind of want to prep it just a little bit beforehand. We know we want to go around this stitch. So we want 6 stitches surrounding this stitch. So we can start like right here, maybe. The important thing is that you want the hand so that the thumb is pointing down. And you can tell which one the thumb is because it's just a little bit further away than the other 2. So these 2 are the front 2. This is the thumb because this is too far away. So you want the thumb pointing down towards the bottom. As long as you got it like that, we can start right here. Or actually we could start right here and then we'll go up a stitch. We're just going to work 6 stitches around. And then we're going to go through the next stitch on the arm, into the body, into the same place, and then come out through the next one. Now let's count out the rest of these. Once you get it started, it can get a little bit easier. Okay, so we'll have 1, that's going to be that one, 2, 3, 4, 5 stitches left, and we're going to have to start. This is going to be the last place we're going to sew it on, and we have 5 stitches. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 5 is the one that we're currently in. So we're actually got a pretty easy one here. Going to go around. Now I have it almost done. We only have 3 more stitches left, but before I finish that up, I do want to stuff this arm up just a little bit. Not too much, just enough so that it's not like deflated. And you just want to do a little bit of stuffing at a time with a long stick like this. Try to get it down to the bottom. Just a little bit of stuffing at a time. You do not want to overdo it because it'll clump up in little spots. So I find it's best to do just a little bit. Okay, a little bit more. And then a little bit more. That's pretty good. I like that. And we'll finish sewing this on. One, 2, and then this will be the last stitch. Okay, there we go. That's pretty good. And this will be able to bend in different directions now. There we go. Okay, now we can double knot these 2 knots on the inside. And we'll end up doing the same on the opposite arm as well. And I'm gonna, let's find out how far away we want it to be sewn on. Go ahead and cut this knot though. Throw that to the side. Now the other arm, we want to sew on just a few stitches over. So let's look at the bottom of this one and see how far away it's going to be. So that's going to be the one end. We'll have 1, 2, looks like we have basically 3 stitches in between arms. So if you look at the bottom here, let's go ahead and get our second armature prepped. About, that's probably good. And we want it to be only a few stitches away. So 1, 2, 3. So it'll be right like here. To about right there. And we'll work around that bottom part. I'll just thread that on. And we'll go ahead and I'll sew this one on as well, right there. Okay, so I got our arms sewn on now. I'm just going to go ahead and double knot it on the inside and give it a cut. 1 and 2. Okay. There we go. So we got both of our arms sewn on. You can see I have 3 stitches in between. And the next thing we want to do, and you can see also that they will be completely bendable to get into the right position. Probably be like something like that. And the next thing we want to do is we want to stuff the neck up and put a pipe cleaner on the inside. We actually only need half of a pipe cleaner. So we'll go ahead and do the same thing that we did for the arms. We'll fold the pipe cleaner in half, cut it. And we're going to save this half for the tail. We'll put that over here. And I'll fold it in half again. And I'll twist it up. And this time we don't really need it we don't really need to have too much left over because we're basically just going to stuff this into the neck and then stuff around it. That's probably fine. We'll just go ahead and go right up the neck till just a little bit is left right there. And then you don't really need too much stuffing because I did stuff it a little bit, but see right here, I could use a little bit of stuffing right there. The head has, I think, enough stuffing in it, but right there needs a little bit more. So I'll take just a tiny bit of stuffing. That actually might be more than I need. Maybe like that much. I'll take my trusty stick and go ahead and slowly stuff it up. There we go. I could feel it get stuffed right there. There we go. That's a lot more dense. Great. And we could stuff the neck a little bit more if we want to, but we'll just go ahead and toss that right there. Just get into the base of the neck. And now the neck is posable as well. Boop-a-da-boo. Okay, and the last thing we want to do here before we get continuing on the body is we want to sew on the wings. And here we have one of our wings, and here is the other one. And the wings are going to be sewn on. It's kind of tricky. It's kind of like weird to sew the wings on. You want to take these two ends here. We want to go just above. We basically want the wings to be like right above the arms. Basically like right here. So that this part is sewn onto just above the arm, like in the same stitch as the arm is sewn on, like right there. And then the rest is sewn above it right here. So we'll go ahead and take these two long pipe cleaners and go just above the arm. So like right, maybe like right here and here. Try these two. There we go. Let's see how that looks. So if I double knot those, or if I twist those on the inside, will we be happy with it, is basically what I'm looking at. That's pretty good. It's not bad. I think I kind of want it a little bit more over the shoulder. So let's go up a little bit more. Okay, so instead of these two, let's go with these two. So it's right above the shoulder. This. Let's see how that looks. That's not bad. Yeah, I like that. Okay, so we want to take these two ends, and just like before, we just want to find the base of those and twist them so that that pipe cleaner doesn't come out on the inside. And then we can actually just sort of twist it so it's just a ball of metal pipe cleaner there. And we're going to try to sew around this pipe cleaner so that none of the pipe cleaner is showing. We want to avoid any of that pipe cleaner being shown. So we have two ends here. And I guess this one's a little longer, so we'll use this one. We'll thread the small one first. And just go through where one of these pipe cleaners is. Maybe like, actually, let's go above where the pipe cleaner is. Let's go right here for one stitch. And then with this other one, we want to go around as many places as we can around this wing. Usually I do like 3 or 4 places. And I'll show you a couple that I'm certain of, and then sometimes I just guess. So we'll start like right here, where that one pipe cleaner is. We'll go down a stitch, just so we're right up against the arm. Like that. And with the stitch right up against the arm, we want to sew around this, like the membrane part of the wing. So we'll go around just this very last stitch, like through that last stitch on the wing. and then back through the same stitch you came out of right here. And then let's go up to here. Let's see, do we want up to there? No, we don't need up to there. Let's go up to where the other pipe cleaner is. Oopsies, I went around the head there. Yeah, that's pretty good. I like that. And now with this bit, we're just going to kind of go around all these stitches around the side of it. So I'm just going to go around this one first and into the same spot that I came out of. Try not to go around any of the legs or anything. And I'll come up through, let's go up through right. Let's see. Yeah, we'll go up through this one next. And go through this side of the wing. Just find somewhere for our needle to go through. And then we'll finish by going through where the other end of the pipe cleaner is attached in there. Okay. So we'll come up through, see where that fuzz is? That's where we want to come up through. And we'll go around another stitch here. And we might need to go around it a couple times just to make sure that that pipe cleaner is hidden. Actually, maybe not. Let's see. Let's see how this goes. Actually, that's pretty good. You can't really see the pipe cleaner through that. Maybe a little bit, but that's okay. That's all right. And that's going to be how to sew on the wing. I'm going to go ahead and do that on the other side as well. But before I do that, I do want to double knot both of these ends in. There we go. Cut the end relatively close. It's a bit messy on the inside there. There we go. So I'll go ahead and add the other wing to the other side here, and then we can continue on for the rest of our body here. Okay, so I've got our wings sewn on. We've got our arms sewn on. Now we can continue crocheting the body. We are on round 27. And we've stuffed up the neck too. Don't forget about that. Okay. Pull our stitch marker over. So for round 27, we're just going to continue on the body here. We're going to single crochet 9. Just go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. And then we're going to do an invisible decrease. Or I'm sorry, a single crochet, then an invisible decrease 3 times in a row. Okay, so single crochet 1, invisible decrease 1, 1, 2, boom. Like that. And we're going to do that 3 times. Let's do second repeat, single crochet 1, invisible decrease 1, and then one more single crochet and invisible decrease. There we go. That's going to be the end of round 27. That's going to bring you down from 18 stitches to 15 stitches. So you should have 15 stitches now by the end of round 27 here. Okay. For round 28, it's going to be pretty close, pretty similar. We're going to single crochet 9 and then invisible decrease 3 times. So 9 single crochets, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. And then we're going to invisible decrease 3 times. So 1, 2, and the last one right here is going to be 3. And that's going to bring you down to 12 stitches around. You can see how it's kind of pulling in the bottom right there. Okay. Now we're on to round 29. Oh, I'm sorry, I think I might have said that last one was around 29, but it was 28. For round 29, we're going to be doing a single crochet into each stitch around. And there should, again, only be 12 stitches around. So we'll pull our stitch marker up, and then I'll go ahead and single crochet into each stitch all the way around. And again, only 12 stitches around for this round here. Okay. All right, that's going to be the end of round 29, just single crochets around. Pull our stitch marker, our loop out a little bit. And now we're going to sew on the legs onto the bottom of our piece. Now the legs go between round 25 and 27. So that's going to be between, let's see here. It's going to be right before the decreases begin. So that's going to be right, so that should be round 27. So boom, boom. So right here between these 3 rounds is where we want to add the legs. And we want to make sure they're on either side of the body. So let's say right here should be one, and right there or something like that. So let's go ahead and grab a leg. Now again, there's 2 different kinds of legs here. We got a right and a left leg. And you can tell which one is which because of the way it tilts. So this, you see, if you look at the bottom of this, we'll see the two front toes and the one back toe, because the back one's just a little bit separated from the front two. And that means that the front two are going to be facing forward on the dragon towards the head. So we want it to be essentially right here. So this will be, what is that? The left foot, and be sewn over here. And this one will be the right foot and sewn over here. And we want it to be somewhat centered about right, like something like that. So let's start. I think I'd like to start on this side. Move those over, and let's start with this foot here. And I'll start by threading the middle of the 2 tail ends, like coming out of the center of the foot. And let's place it exactly where we want it to be. I think about right there. Like that. Maybe a little further back, actually. Let's go like right here. Let's look at it on our main piece here. Yeah, that's pretty good right there. So between the arms, I want 1, 2, 3, 4 rounds, it looks like, on this finished one. So let's try that. Between the arms, let's give it a little stretch here. We want 1, 2, 3, 4. So it'll probably be like right here. Let's try like right there. See how that looks. One, 2, 3, 4. So like that. Okay. Yeah, that's pretty good. Okay. So then we'll take this end. Make sure we got this right. 1, 2, 3, 4. Well, you know what? We need to pull this one up just one more round right here, maybe. Like that. Yeah, okay. 1, 2, 3, 4. and the bottom of it is going to go right there. So we're going to start here, move over 1 stitch. We'll take this longer end, thread it on. And don't forget, we're going to just start sewing this on here. Don't forget to make sure to stuff the foot up before you finish sewing it on, wherever you decide to sew it on. Let's count around. For this, we'll have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And we'll go 1, 2, 3, 4. Is that right? Like that? Yeah, that looks good. So we'll start right here. Yeah. Boom. 2. And we're just sewing it on like you'd sew something on, I guess. Okay, let's make sure we like what's going on here. Yeah, that'll work. Let's twist the head a little bit. Yeah, because he's going to be sitting back on his back feet like that. Okay. One, two, three, 4. We've got 1, 2. Wait, 1, 2, 3, 4. That'll be what it is. Okay. Now before I continue, got our last few stitches there. We just want to stuff this foot a little tiny bit. Not too much. Not that much stuffing should do. That much stuffing should do. We might want a little bit more stuffing, actually. Let's see. Let's test it out. Actually, no, that was pretty good. So we go 1. Boom, boom. 1, 2. Yep. Cool. Okay. And then just like before, like all the other things, we're just going to double knot these on the inside. Make sure not to work around our stitch marker there. And then let's look on the final thing how far away each of the legs were sewn on. And then I'll go ahead and sew the leg on. Cut the yarn. Try not to cut the stitch marker. Okay. Now the final thing here, we had looks like only 3 rounds between legs. 1, 2, 3, or 3 stitches between legs, just like the arms actually. So about 3 stitches away from the legs should be good. So I'll go ahead and sew this next leg on, and I'll be back in just a second. Okay, so we've got our legs sewn on, we got the arms sewn on, we got the wings sewn on, we got our neck stuffed up, and I think I'm liking him. I think I like how he looks. It's pretty cute. Pretty cute. Okay, so let's just keep on crocheting now. And we are on to round 30. continuing the body. Really, we're making the tail now, basically. So for round 30, we're just going to do 10 single crochets and then an invisible decrease at the end of the round. And that's basically going to be the gist for the majority of the tail, is that we're just slowly going to be decreasing it down 1 stitch every 2 rounds until we only have 5 stitches left. So we'll do, let's see, we got 1, 2, 3, 4. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. So there's 10 single crochets, and then we'll do an invisible decrease here. 1, 2, boom, biddy boom. There we go. That's going to be the end of round 30. For round 31, nice and easy, just a single crochet into each stitch around. There should be 11 stitches now. So it's a great chance for you to count your stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, a couple more, 7, 8, 9, 10, and here is 11. That's going to be the end of round 31. Now really, I'm not supposed to, I mean, it's not that I'm not supposed to stuff it up to later, but I have notes in my pattern to stuff it up later, but I'm going to stuff him I'm going to stuff him up pretty well right now, because I think it's going to make it a little bit easier to crochet around with it. So I'm going to go ahead and take some stuffing here. And I'll start with just regular stuffing to get up to the neck. I like to use the back of my crochet hook here because it helps grip the stuffing. Again, we're just going to go up to the back of the neck first. That, and then I'm going to use some of my excess yarn here to stuff it up after that. This is going to be a little bit more dense than regular stuffing and keep it weighed down just slightly more in the body. This probably won't be an issue at all. I haven't had any problems where the dragon is not sitting upright. He pretty much always sits upright, but this will help it in case you are worried about that at all. Okay. Yeah, now he's standing up a lot better. Okay, and that should help us as we go to just make it a little bit more dense and easier to control. Okay, let's just keeping on here. So now we are on to round 32, and we're going to continue our little pattern of 1 decrease. So for round 32, we're going to do 9 single crochets and then 1 invisible decrease. So basically, you can just keep single crocheting around until you get to the last 2 stitches. And then the last 2 stitches will be an invisible decrease. And then once you do a round of a 1 decrease, you can then move on to a round of just single crochets around, and you're going to see it's just going to slowly make it smaller and smaller, which is perfect for a tail. So that'll probably be, yeah, that's going to be 9 single crochets and then an invisible decrease. And then for the next round, round 33, we're going to do a single crochet into each stitch around. And I'm going to keep repeating this process of doing an invisible decrease right at the end of the round for each round coming up. So This is round 33 where we're doing a single crochet into each stitch. And then round 34, we're going to do 8 single crochets and then an invisible decrease. And then round 35, we'll do a single crochet into each stitch. And then for round 36, we're going to do 7 single crochets and then an invisible decrease. And you kind of see how the pattern goes. We're just going to slowly decrease it down. So I'm going to go ahead and off camera do we're on round 33 still. So I'm going to go all the way down to round 41 where we'll have 6 stitches around. And then I'll finish up the last 2 rounds with you and show you how to sew on our spikes along the back of our dragon. There we go. There's the end of round 33. So I'm going to continue rounds 34 through 41 now, and I'll be back in just a second. If you have any questions on these, I know I normally do every round. I try to do almost every round unless they're repeat rounds in video. So if you have any extra questions here, please let me know. Again, we have a Discord channel and a Facebook group, and you can also email me directly at louis@clubcrochet.com. All right, I'll be back in just a sec. Okay, that's going to be right here, I think. Yeah, that's going to be the last stitch for round 41. So I've done, you can see here, I've done a majority of the tail here. I only have 2 more rounds to go, which will only go 1, 2, about like that long. So I'm going to go ahead and pull this loop out really quick, because next up we want to stuff the tail and make sure to add a pipe cleaner so we can bend the tail into different directions. So let's start by actually adding the pipe cleaner. So I'm going to do the pipe cleaner exactly like I've done the arms and the neck here, where I just take half of my last pipe cleaner, we twist it up pretty much all the way. Actually, for this one, we're definitely going to go to the full bit there. And I'm going to stuff it up. Let's go this way. We're going to go all the way to the tip, right like that. And we want to add the stuffing ends about right here. So we want to make sure all this bit is stuffed a little bit more. We're going to just do a little bit by a little bit here. We want to keep the pipe cleaner just right there. Try not to get the pipe cleaner stuffed in there too far where you can't get to it, because you want to make sure that the stuffing is on the sides of the pipe cleaner. And if the pipe cleaner gets pushed in too far, you might have, well, a problem on your hands. I have done it before, and then my dragon's tail is not posable anymore. Go a little bit more. Just a little bit more right at the end there. And the good thing is we're just about done with our dragon. Just have a few more rounds of crocheting, and then we can sew on the spikes, and the spikes are actually shockingly easy to sew on, in my opinion. Okay, there we go. Now we just have a couple more rounds here. For round 42, it's going to be the same pattern as we've been doing before. 4 single crochets and then an invisible decrease right at the end. And I know I don't have our stitch marker here at the end here because I've been just kind of eyeballing it, but we'll just keep count. That's 2. 3. Trying to make sure none of that fuzz is poking through. This will be 4. Our poor dragon's just been dragging its face on the ground. This is going to be our invisible decrease to finish up round 42. Now we're on to round 43, where we just do our last round of just single crochets around, and there should only be 5 stitches around. So we got 1, 2. So close. We're so close. Oh. There we go. 3, 4. Then our last one right here will be 5. We can cut the yarn. You don't need a very long end, just enough to sew it closed. And just pull it all the way through. To sew the tail closed, we're just going to thread this onto our needle. And we're going to go into the front loops of all the stitches around. Front loop, front loop, and there we go. And then we're just going to pull it tight, and we'll close up that end. We'll go straight through the center, and just come out, I don't know, there, seems pretty good. Like that. And then we can cut there. Let's go ahead and get our stitch marker out of here. 1, 2, 3, 4. There. And there we go. Let's go ahead and make sure everything's in the right position. We have our tail can be bent however we want it. Same as our arms and our wings. I like to make my wings like this. So they go a little bit down, up, and then give a curve to the edge of it. We got our dragon basically done. The only thing we want to add now is the spikes. Okay, so let's grab our spikes here. And actually, what I like to do is use an extra strand of yarn. I'm going to use a different color too. I'm going to use a little bit more of our blue yarn here. And plot out where we want the spikes to be sewn along the back. And we want, let's actually straighten our tail here. And let's straighten our neck. And we want to try to make the spikes go on as straight as we possibly can. Okay, you want to get it as straight as possible. And the best way I find to do that is to map it out with an extra strand of yarn before you go. So I'm going to thread a little piece of yarn here. And I'm going to start just behind the neck here. So we're going to start like right here. And usually I go up 3 rounds and over 1. Just like that. So if I go like 1, and then we'll keep doing that. 1, 2, 3. And we're just trying to like make it straight. 2, 3, we'll go like right here. And then 1, 2. Wait, 1, 2, 3 will be right like there. And this should be 10. So each of our spikes are going to go in between this. So there would be 1 spike here, 1 spike here, 1 spike here. 1, let's see, 1, 2, 3. And they come out 1, 2, 3. That's going to be a nice straight one. And then 1, 2, 3. Come out 1, 2, 3. And 1, 2, 3. I think that's going to be all the spikes, but let's count. So we'll have 1 spike here. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay, there is going to be 1 more. So 1, 2, 3. So we'll finish right there. Let's go ahead and pull it through about like right like that. What I like to do is pull it out just so there's just the very bit of it left over there. and pull it taut. Like that. Okay, so now we know where our spikes are going to be sewn on. And we'll have two ends here. We'll have a really long end and then our short little end. We want to start with our long end. And we're going to go in through where this end's coming out and come out through the next bit right there. And I pull it out as I do it so I can keep track of where I'm going. You pull it all the way through till just the end is in there. And even then I like to kind of like pull it taut. And then I go around the outside, around like this, back into the same stitch that we came out of, and then out through the next spot. Like that. And then I like to pull it nice and tight so that it pulls this end here in pretty tightly. So like this. See, it's just going to pull that end in there. And then I'll go around the next part. Around here, into the next stitch, and out through the next one right here. Make sure it goes around the right piece. Like that. Pull tight. Next stitch. Oopsies, we lost one, but that's okay. We'll figure it out. Make sure the spikes are straight on as you pull it tight. On that one. 1, 2, 3. I believe it's that one. Right here. There we go. Next stitch. Come out through the next spot. Uh-oh. Let's see here. That'll go around this part, right? And we got 1, 2, 3 more. 1, 2, 3. Yeah, that'll be all right. It looks like it's longer than it is. But it looks pretty good if you ask me. That's pretty well sewn on there. Nice and tight. Just a couple more. Okay, this is going to be the last one we're going to work around. Try to point all of our spikes up straight. It's pretty good. We're going to go around this one here. And I'm just going to go out somewhere on the bottom, like right there. Some miscellaneous stitch. Pull it tight. And then with this other end, we're going to go out through where this last bit is, this last marker is. So right through there, We're going to come out where we came out with the other end. Got some fuzz poking out. I'm just going to pull this through and double knot it and then cut it close. I get all excited at the very end of a project, especially a big one like this. Cut it close. Stuff that little knot in there with the end of your needle. And then we'll straighten all the spikes again. Straighten out these arms. Get them in the position we want. And we have a dragon. Oh my gosh, what am I going to name this dragon? I don't know. Gosh, he's so cool looking though, isn't he? A red dragon. I like when I like to curve their heads a little bit. All right. I kind of wish I did that thing with the forehead spikes to make him like look a little angrier since he is a red dragon, but that's okay. That's okay. This guy is awesome. Wow. How cool is that? Okay. Now I'll bend the tail a little bit like that. And there we go. We have a dragon. Gosh, it's so cool. Oh my gosh. This might be the coolest pattern I've ever made. All right. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed that pattern. Thank you so much for purchasing the pattern or becoming a Club Crochet member. If you're not a Club Crochet member yet, I have a you can check out it all at clubcrochet.com. You get access to all my patterns. You can get a membership for only $5 a month, and there's even a free trial. It's really cool. If you like this pattern, I highly suggest you check out some of my goblins, trolls, orcs, and ogres, and my game Stitched. I think you'd really like it, and I'm working on this dragon to be a playable character in the game Stitched. The rules are online at stitchedthegame.com. It's a tabletop game where you make all of your pieces out of crochet and then you play it. Thanks again so much for watching. Pasta la pizza, happy hooking, and Draconis.